You want to see a great way to help anticipate the next move of the S&P 500, at least on a short-term basis? Well, that's what we're going to do in this video, and we're going to take a look at the heat map for today. The overall market was down, S&P was down about 0.2%. It did recover a lot from the lows, but it was closed down on the day. And what we're going to be doing is looking at the big, heavily weighted stocks in the index, and I'm looking at the heat map here. The biggest ones we can see by size here are Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, Amazon, and Google. Those are the main ones I like to keep up. And we're going to be looking at what the options market is pricing in for that. And first of all, let's just kind of notate that Apple was basically flat, Microsoft was flat, Amazon down a little bit, and Tesla down a little bit more. This one's been a little bit more volatile lately, and we have Google down ever so slightly on the day. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Flowline, and I've already got this set up, and we're going to look at the options flow. This is just for the day for these particular stocks. First, we have the overall market that actually had some bearish options flow for most of the day, but the market is really bucking this trend. This makes me not want to trust this two-day rally, whatever you want to call it. It's very kind of skeptical. You're going to want to see this turn back to green, call premiums going back above puts. That could happen tomorrow. Remember, this is more just today. But let's take a look at Apple, what we saw today. Apple, one of the heavily weighted stocks, had a lot of puts bought at the open or in the first part of the day, and then call premium dropped. So we were getting a lot of call selling. This coincided with the morning sort of dip that we had. But ultimately, the calls and puts were kind of choppy. But even though Apple eked out back to even today, puts did get bought and calls ultimately got sold at the end of the day, and that coincided with a little bit of a dip here. So net, the option market is, I wouldn't say overly bearish necessarily that Apple's going to go down, but there was a lot of call selling in the stock. So there could be a lid on the stock. So that's one component of the S&P 500. Let's take a look at Amazon. Amazon was really kind of relatively flat on the day, but we can see towards the end of the day, Amazon puts had a nice little spike up and calls had a spike down. So again, not necessarily saying that Amazon's going to go down, but that call selling really tells me that there's a little bit of a lid, or at least there's some hedging going on, maybe covered calls. I know I actually sold a covered call in Amazon today. This definitely was not me. I did not sell negative 2 million in covered calls, but you get the drift here. We take a look at Google. This really isn't telling us much because the calls and puts were sort of entangled, but as the stock goes up, calls and puts were going up as well. So this doesn't tell us too much today. Tesla, we expected to be bearish here because it closed bearish, and puts were very clearly being bought on the stock today, leveled out, and calls kind of coming up. So kind of a mixed bag, but ultimately puts were outpacing calls by a lot today on Tesla. That's why the stock was down a little bit more. And Microsoft's telling a little bit different story. We actually had some put selling at the beginning of the day, which goes contradictory to what we would think the price would do. And we saw a lot of put selling towards the end of the day, and calls were kind of going down as well. So this is just telling me that there's a lot of less volatility maybe expected in the stock because both calls and puts are getting sold. So it's a mixed bag for sure, but I think that when we see some of these bigger stocks like Tesla, Amazon, and Apple showing a couple bearish signs toward the end of the day, as well as the market net flow, it kind of makes it suspect about whether or not this rally can continue tomorrow. Obviously, this is a very headline-driven market. We have a lot of Fed speakers and data, so things can change very quickly overnight, but that's what I got in this video, and we'll see you in the next one.